Welcome back. The latest in the presidential fundraising race. The Harris-Walz campaign has raised nearly $285 million overall, with $95 million in cash on hand as of July 30th. Former President Trump and J.D. Vance raising roughly $221 million overall, but leading in cash on hand with more than $128 million in cash. Joining me now is Republican National Committee Chairman Michael Whatley. Mr. Chairman, good to see you again. Thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be on with you, Maria.
Let's start with the fundraising. What can you tell us about money raised and what you're hearing from constituents and donors?
We feel very comfortable that we are able to raise the money that we need. We have seen record-breaking months since the president became our presumptive nominee back in March. And we're going to have the resources that we need to get our message out to every American family and every American voter.
Yeah, but look, the Democrat National Committee is investing more than $300,000 into registering and helping American citizens that live abroad with mail-in voting. So this is their new tactic, Michael. The party estimates 1.6 million American expats are from crucial swing states. This is the first time that the Democrat National Committee has used this tactic in a presidential election cycle. The RNC is focusing on election integrity with the Protect the Vote program. I know that. You've invested in poll watchers. You filed more than 80 election integrity lawsuits across the country. You're trying to keep states honest in terms of what they're doing. But what do you make of this new tactic from the Democrats? They're trying to get people, American citizens who are living abroad, to mail in their votes for Kamala Harris.
Sure. Well, it's good that they finally realized that they need to do that. We've had Republicans Abroad, which is a great organization which has been working on this throughout the election cycle. I have spoke to their leadership and had a number of conversations with it. We've got efforts right now, particularly in Israel underway and other countries, to try and make sure that the American citizens abroad that are Republicans are voting as well. And right now, what we're seeing across the country is on Republican registration, we are catching the Democrats. We are beating the Democrats all across the country, particularly in battleground states like Pennsylvania and North Carolina, where we have seen huge surges in closing the gap from Republicans to Democrats.
Okay, so let's talk about what you're doing ahead of this election in terms of protecting the vote. You know, we've spoken many times about all of the illegals in this country and the fact that many lawmakers, including Claudia Tenney in New York, who told us this last week, that there are illegal people, people who are here illegally in this country. They're already registered to vote. So what are you going to do about it?
Well, what I would say is we had a great motion yesterday that was filed by 24 Republican attorneys general from across the country in support of our lawsuit in Arizona to ensure that illegal immigrants are not allowed to vote. It's very important premise that non-citizens are able to not able to vote in this election cycle. So we were very excited to see 24 Republican attorneys general stand up, file that brief with the Supreme Court to defend our action in Arizona.
Okay, so I know it's up to the states. What can you do on a state level, and what states are you concerned about? I know you say you're concerned about every state, but I mean, particularly the Democrat states, where it's up to them in terms of policing illegals voting. What can you do about that? Yeah,
well, what we hope is that this case that we are engaged in Arizona, where we are defending Arizona's law that says only U.S. citizens can vote in Arizona elections, is going to set a national conversation from the Supreme Court. We are fighting in every single state right now to make sure that non-citizens cannot vote, that the states need to enforce that. And we're very excited that we've got 24 attorneys general from across the country who agree with us.
And you've already cleaned up some of the voter rolls, right? There were tens of thousands of inactive voters on the voter rolls just last week. I know you tweeted about that.
Yeah, look, the states that have engaged in this, including Nevada and Ohio and Virginia, are leaders right now on this front. We are pushing very aggressively for every state to follow the law and to move non-citizens, to move dead people and people who've moved out of the state off of the voter rolls. We want to make sure that only those people who are supposed to vote can vote. And when we have that, and we have, fair and accurate and secure and transparent elections, that we feel very good President Trump is going to be the 47th president of the United States.
Well, look, you had a lot of momentum around your Republican National Convention, which was a big success. Now the Democrat National Convention is kicking off Monday in Chicago. It'll run from August 19th to August 22nd, featuring a star-studded Hollywood lineup. We were expecting this, and that's what's playing out. John Legend, Joan Jett, Jon Stewart, the cast of RuPaul's Drag Race, not to mention Democrat heavyweights like former President Obama and former President Clinton. The Clintons will be there. A new Fox News poll shows voter enthusiasm surged dramatically since Biden dropped out of the race. 67% of voters now calling themselves extremely motivated to vote. 95% are at least somewhat motivated, Michael. Does the RNC have any plans to counter-program the DNC?
Yeah, we're going to go out and we're going to talk directly to the American people about the issues that they care about, because right now Donald Trump is the only candidate in this race that is trying to unify the country and is trying to make sure that we are restoring our economy, we are rebuilding our national, the southern border and our standing in the world. When you think about Kamala Harris and this conversation she's having about inflation, people need to remember she is the one with 2 tie-breaking votes, unleashed $2.5 trillion worth of unnecessary federal spending and sent inflation absolutely through the roof. Her plan right now to try and combat that is actually to the left of Joe Biden, and every economist that has had a look at her plan has said that this is not going to work. Donald Trump is the only candidate right now who is fighting to reduce federal spending, unleash American energy, bring inflation down, and keep more money in every American family's pockets through his tax cuts, which we need to have extended.
Well, I'll tell you, they are not going to stop at trying to take Trump down. You know that. They've tried to bankrupt him. They tried to imprison him. Somebody else tried to kill him. I mean, former President Trump is requesting a delayed sentencing in this so-called hush money case against him in New York. The former president says it's election interference to sentence him before the election. But Judge Juan Merchan is expected to rule on this request on September 16th. The sentencing is currently set for September 18th. Michael, what about this? Is this going to be another wrench in the whole plan for President Trump?
If the Democrats get their way, it absolutely will be. Look, the weaponization of the judicial system by the Harris-Biden administration is absolutely unprecedented. The fact that they have mobilized their allies all across the country to go after President Trump in civil court and in criminal court is something that we have never seen in American history, and I really pray that we will never see it again.
Well, I mean, it's ongoing, right? I mean, these agencies have been weaponized, and now people are questioning what happened with, the assassination attempt. How come the Secret Service had such a epic failure? Has that been politicized as well?
Well, I think everything right now is in a political frame. The fact that the weaponization of the judicial system by the Harris-Biden administration is something that needs to be talked about. It needs to be investigated. Thankfully, our friends in the House who have taken a look at this are continuing their investigations on this. But, what we need is for Donald Trump to get back in office and be able to clean up those agencies and end the politicization and the weaponization of the judicial system.
What do you make of all of these groups that the Harris campaign is putting together to lobby for Kamala right now? You had white dudes for Kamala. You had, designers for Kamala. You had yesterday the crypto town hall, which went wildly off the rails. She didn't even show up. And of course, crypto industry thinks she's totally against them because nobody from the campaign showed up either. But she's trying to get all these little individual groups to try to eat away at Trump's lead. And she is eating away at his lead. He's only up a point.
Well, look, President Trump is the only candidate in this race who is trying to speak to every American family and every American voter. He is the only candidate right now who has put serious proposals on the table to end inflation, to secure our southern border, and to make sure that we restore our standing in the world.
All right, Michael, we'll be watching all of that. Thanks very much for being here, Chairman Michael Whatley.